Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. And the Springboks taking on Argentina this weekend. New Zealand versus the Wallabies. The big thing is that world ranking points are up for grabs, and a big opportunity for any of these teams to sort of make some gains or to create a bit of space at the top, because there are ranking points available. But also, very importantly, you don't get the right results, you can drop quite quickly. And we're now sort of ending into the last, really probably about 5-6 weeks worth of international rugby for the end of the year, before the Rugby World Cup draw, where we will see the teams that have been selected and qualified, and where they'll go into the pools, which is going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, these are the permutations for this weekend. And basically, South Africa will only surrender top spot if they lose. So, very importantly, anything besides a loss tomorrow, and we will stay number one in the world because of that victory over the All Blacks away by that margin, and by the fact that we were lower than we have now gone to a decent lead on them, which is really, really cool and very exciting from that regard, because it gives us a bit of a buffer. The problem is we are playing, some really top teams at the end of the year, and lots of opportunity for them to sort of take the spot back. But important that we keep the momentum. Now, unfortunately, we aren't able to gain or improve their rating because because they're not basically ranked high enough for playing at home, the likes of that. It is still not possible for Victoria's New Zealand to catch us, however, which is really good. So even if we win by 1 point, if we draw, if we win by 35 points, and it doesn't matter what what New Zealand do, they cannot catch the Boks. However, the most the All Blacks can gain for winning the Bledisloe Cup encounter with Australia is 0.26 rating points, and they are 2.52 points behind the Springboks, so they can't get anywhere close to us, to be honest. So it's actually more jeopardy really for New Zealand, who can drop below France and England, and will be a record equaling low of 5th for them if they are beating. While a defeat by more than 15 points will see the Wallabies become the higher ranked sides of the two sides, and New Zealand could go down to their worst ever ranking of 6th. I mean, how much of a disaster. They were first a month ago, and they could go down to 6th if they lose tomorrow, which maybe shows you how volatile really the world rankings are. I think that's probably the biggest thing people have an issue with, is that it's far too easy for you to have one bad result and to sort of tumble down the rankings versus many good results. The Boks, for example, losing to the Wallabies, and that was about 9 or 10 games on a row they'd won, and all of a sudden you crash out and you're down to 3rd, for example, which I think is valid. I think there needs to be far more weighting to previous performances and momentum, for example. I don't think it should be a simple, you lost to 5th, therefore you dropped this many points. There needs to be a way of taking into consideration your previous results, your last 5. A bit like a golf handicap, I suppose, in terms of having that buffer of you've beaten these sort of teams before, you've created a bit of historical weighting. Because at the end of the day, yes, it's the number one side in the world, but you've got to be able to earn that over a length of time, and not just be able to go on a 2-3 match streak and all of a sudden you're number one in the world, come to the end of the year, and you get that number one seeding. In terms of Australia, they've only ever been ranked above New Zealand for 1 week since the rankings began in October 2003. So it'll be a big opportunity for Joe Schmidt's men to make a bit of history over there. And they beat them by 12 points in the World Cup semi-finals. Such a marginal defeat, combined with a win for Argentina and South Africa, would see New Zealand slip a further place to 7th, and outside what will be the band 1 for the men's World Cup. So all of a sudden, if the All Blacks were to be at 7th, they would be in band 2 in the rankings or in the draw at the end of the year. So this is kind of where, it's very unlikely, but this is where the jeopardy comes. Because if you don't pitch up and you don't get these results, you could find yourselves in a very precarious place come the draw in December. The most that Australia go up to is to 2 places to 5th. They would need to win by more than 15 points, and Argentina not to match that margin. So to be fair, I think that Australia win could be on the cards. At Eden Park, difficult, but I think that they're basically relying on us beating Argentina. They could try and make some gains on Argentina. Argentina are too far behind England to claim 5th place, even if they win well in Durban, win by meaning by more than 15 points. Elsewhere, Chile must beat Samoa by more than 15 points in their World Cup 2027 qualifier to improve on 20th. And that would be a scenario that would lift them up to a new high of 17th. And I loved watching Chile at the World Cup. They were a very cool team to watch, to be honest. And just to be able to watch a team like Chile at the World Cup, when are you ever going to be able to do that again? It was very, very cool. Los Condores were on course to win by that margin and overtake Samoa in the rankings after establishing a 32 points 13 lead in the first leg of the South American Pacific playoff in the Salt Lake City last weekend, until Samoa fought back to earn a 32-all draw. Samoa will climb above Spain to 14th if they secure a win that confirms their place as the 23rd qualifier for Australia 2027. However, Chile cannot slip from 20th, even with a heavy loss to Manu Samoa, and Turkey, also actually the lowest ranked team in action this weekend, in 85th if they win their opening Rugby Europe Men's Conference 2025-26 fixture against Ukraine by more than 15 points to climb the rankings. So a bit of interesting European rugby happening over there. Turkey will then go to up to 79th, for example. You got Ukraine, who can't improve on 52nd, in case you wondered. But this basically sort of shows you what the rankings will become. So if New Zealand win by more than 15 points, New Zealand will go up to 89.28 and Australia 83.67. So this is where you can kind of get your calculations, really. If we win by... We're 91.62, regardless of if we win by how many margins, we will stay at 91.62. Argentina 84.40 wouldn't change, even if we win by more than 15 points or less. However, if there's a draw, Argentina will gain some ranking points. We will lose some ranking points, but we're not losing number one ranking spot. If they win by 15 points or less, they go down to 89.62, and that's all of a sudden where we can go slip down the rankings itself, but very unlikely, very unlikely. So those are all sort of the different permutations. Andrew Piatti, by the way, will take charge at Eden Park. That kickoff is about 7 o'clock South African Standard Time. And then in terms of the South African game, all these wonderful little stats over here. Angus Gardner will be in the middle for that, and he's had 53 tests, very experienced referee. And if you look at the head-to-head stats, for example, between South Africa and Argentina, they really do favor us. So, we keep trying to give Argentina a chance and kind of try to create this idea that they are a side capable of the Springboks, which they are, but it is unlikely. We are very much the favorites, and we can't shy away from that tack. You have to be able to learn to embrace it. You have to be able to ride with it and go on and get results whilst being considered the best team out there. Because I think that's something that maybe we've struggled with in the past, and we need to get away from that continuous underdog mentality, because we're not underdogs. We are the number one team in the world. We've got to embrace that, and we've got to make sure that is very, very intrinsic in our belief. What do you predict the rankings becoming come Monday? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve, and I'll chat to you soon.